Hey, good morning and good evening, everyone, wherever you're joining it from. Welcome to this webinar on Microsoft Data Factory. And today we're going to talk about building end-to-end data pipelines, leveraging copy job and DBT job. This is basically helping you show how you can perform ELT processes in Microsoft Fabric at scale and using open source data build tools together, as extract and load and transform process. So with this, let's get started. And Wilson and I, both of us, will be co-presenting this session. I'll hand over to Wilson shortly, but we both will take you through both copy job as well as data build tools in Microsoft Fabric together, right? And let's get started. So we have a jam-packed agenda for the day. You will see a lot of things starting from what we are trying to do as part of the session is build a ELT, a governed pipeline in Microsoft Fabric. And the tools that we will use over here is basically copy job, which can help us ingest data at scale from different data sources. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the connectivity experiences that copy job provides in terms of connecting to different source, even writing it into different destinations. We'll talk about CDC and incremental extracts, extremely important in your data engineering process, especially when you're running operationalizing pipelines, which are doing petabyte data movement plus transformations. You want the incremental capability so that you can reduce the processing times for incremental extracts. Of course, we'll talk about the pricing, the new features, and so on. And we'll talk about transformations with DBT job, which is extremely important once you have brought in the data into a lakehouse or a landing layer or a raw zone. You would want to start cleansing that data, preparing that data so that you can start serving that data using reports. And that's where DBT job comes in, in terms of transforming it using SQL. Then we'll cover the whole orchestration workflow so that you can tie these different data processes of bringing the data in, data extracts in, and then firing the transformations as needed for silver, for gold, for the different medallion levels that we have, and all through a single platform. That is basically what we want to show you here, that you don't have to get outside of one tool to the other tool. It's a single tool, which is Microsoft Fabric, and you can use that end to end to get your whole ELT data in place ready for reporting. With this, let's get started. So we're going to talk about one pipeline, building that end to end, starting from ingestion, landing the data in Lakehouse or one lake, and then transforming and serving that data into Power BI. And how do we build that? How the experience looks like is what and including the capabilities is what we will cover in this session. And we all know why ELT and why is Fabric, because Fabric gives you all the different pieces that you need to build your ELT pipelines in a governed fashion, in a secure fashion, starting from loading, transforming, orchestration, governance in terms of security, the lineage, the monitoring, all the observability pieces that comes in. And of course, it needs to be reliable, consistent, repeatable, without failures. There needs to be version control, CI/CD. And finally, when it comes to billing, it's super simple, single capacity, and you can run everything on that capacity. You don't have to deal with thousands of billing meters and subscriptions and so on. So it makes things super simple. And with this, let's get started. To you, Wilson.
Hey, perfect. Thank you, Abhishek. Hopefully folks can see my screen. Oh, perfect. Thank you. So maybe let's get started, right? I think the most important part is that for this one, the first part, as Abhishek was mentioning, is how we actually getting the data landed, right? So for most of you folks that were watching online, right, for your organization, this is where the complexity really, really starts, right? So the data you need is rarely in one place. It might be an operational database, in a file, in a SaaS application, or maybe in your SAP system or cloud storage, or even in your on-premise data, in your on-premise environment as well, right? And often it's really across multiple clouds. This is where copy job comes in, right? Because copy job is really designed to make the first step of getting the data really, really simple. No, you just need to choose the source, you choose the destination, and define how your data should be mapped. And then you can decide whether you want to bring it in as a full load or incremental load, right? And then what copy job does is that it just handles the data movement for you into Fabric, right? No matter if you want to do this inside into bring data into your warehouse or your lakehouse, right? So you don't even have to manage or build a pipeline or even write code to do so, right? So this is, and of course, what is simple is usually is how to start, right? And then and of course, copy job is not just limited to how you just bring the first set of data, but you can really making sure that it's can build a production architecture based on the copy job in this case, right? For all your data movement needs, right? And of course. One thing to note as well is that once the data landed in Fabric, right, and then that's where Abhishek was talking about, that's where the ETL patterns become much simpler and you can do transformation and many other things as well. But let me get started by looking at one thing that is super important, right? Where, of course, as I mentioned before, right, your data mostly is going to spread across many different systems everywhere, right? But so you may have really critical data, for example, as I mentioned, in SAP or in SQL Server or in Oracle. But in order for us to be able to copy your data, connectivity is super important. And this is where our data factory in Fabric shines, right? We have many different sources. We have more than 170 data sources, which you can actually connect it to. And no matter if your source is on the cloud or on premise, copy job will be able to connect to those sources and being able to copy your data over as well, right? And then often you'll hear us talk about that, hey, this is where we have the best-in-class connectivity, right? And of course, we understand that the breadth matters because, again, your data, it's across many different places. So of course, you also don't, so it's in many, many different places, but what we provide you to do is that we actually give you a way for you to actually be able to connect to those sources. Of course, we also support main destination as well. But one of the most important ones that we want to cover today, it's really for you to be able to bring your data, right, from all these different sources into Fabric itself, right? And this is where we want to talk about how can you actually bring all these data, right, from your operational data source, right? Again, no matter it's a file or in a more complex system like SAP, right? Leveraging copy job to be able to help you to actually copy your data, right, into one like itself, right? So one thing to note, in recently at Build conference, right, a couple of months ago, we actually announced a copy job for SAP with ABAP add-on, right? What this is that this actually enables you to incrementally copy your data, right, with copy job, right, from SAP with an ABAP add-on that you actually install on your SAP system, right, and be able to incrementally copy that data into any destination you want. And of course, if you want to actually land this data into Fabric, you can do so as well. And then with copy job for SAP, or especially, right, it supports all the different type of SAP solution, right? No matter if it is as your SAP HANA, your ACC, and of course, it also supports CDS view as well. And as I mentioned before, right, copy job supports both with SAP and many other sources as well. It supports both full and incremental loads as well, so that you can decide no matter you just want to copy it once, right, as a full copy of your data set, or you want to copy incrementally via a watermark and then bring that data into let's say into a data warehouse or a lakehouse in one lake itself. And of course, folks, if you want to learn more, please take a look at that link that we have in aka.ms link that we have in here. And I'm also believe that is also in the chat and more information in the session as well. But what I love about this new add-on, except for it really showcased what copy job can do, right? In this case, to give you a little bit more details on how this works, is that copy job in this case will leverage an SAP connector in this case, right? To and then it will also be able to connect to your SAP services in an on-premise data gateway, right? For folks that who may not know what on-premise data gateway is, it's a gateway to help you to actually be able to help, in this case, copy job, be able to connect to your on-premise services, like maybe your SAP is running on a server that is behind a firewall. Most customers are, right, in this case, right? And then what happens is that we will use our SAP RSC library to be able to connect to our ABAP add-on, right, that you will have installed into your SAP services in your SAP server. And then with that, then the ABAP add-on will be able to actually get your data incrementally, right? And then copy job can be able to copy this data and of course land it to any destination that you want it to as well. And then one thing that I mentioned why I love this diagram so much is that now imagine that your source, in this case, we're showcasing SAP, but of course it will be the same if you're connecting to, let's say, an Oracle database or your SQL Server and many, many different places as well. If you have data that is behind a firewall, right, it would behave very, very similarly as well. Now, what I would love to do is that let me show you how this works in action, and then we can talk more about copy job and what other capabilities that we have for you. So let me play the demo.
With Copy Job and Microsoft Fabric, organizations now have a simpler and more scalable way to bring SAP data into one lake. Copy Job provides a configuration-driven experience for moving data across clouds, applications, into on-premises systems, designed to support high-scale multi-cloud data movement for petabyte-scale ingestion scenarios. Here I'll show how Copy Job for SAP with a ABAP add-on helps extract large volumes of SAP data into Fabric, supports both initial ingestion and ongoing incremental updates, and reduces the need for external extraction frameworks. Let's get started. First, I'll create a new copy job. I'll choose SAP ERP as the data source and select the sales order header table VBAC. After a quick data preview, I'll move on to configure a one-lake lakehouse as the destination. I'll then select incremental copy. I'll select the right method as merge so copy job can apply incremental changes from the SAP source to the destination table. Next, I'll specify the key columns from the source table. Copy job has already auto-selected the right incremental column, which helps simplify the setup. Now I'll check the destination table and run the copy job. Within a few moments, an initial snapshot has been replicated into Fabric OneLake. Next, I'll change a sales order in SAP. I'll select the sales order, change the purchase order number, and save the update. Back in Fabric, I'll run the copy job again, and I can see that one incremental record is being transferred. Now I'll look at the data in OneLake. The preview shows 1,000 sample sales orders from the destination table. I'll check for the updated record. And the SQL query shows that the record in OneLake has been updated with the new purchase order number. With Copy Job, customers have a simpler way to bring business-critical SAP data into Fabric.
Perfect. So hopefully with this demo, you see a little bit about how we connect to SAP. In this case, which is an extremely exciting new capability that we brought on, especially allowing folks to bring in data. And that really is a great segue to this section, right? Now, a lot of you, of course, with Copy Job, because of the petabyte scales engine that we have, you can always copy your data, every single time, copy all your data into, OneLake, for example, or to any destination that you wanted at any time. But most customers that I've talked to is that they might not want to copy all their data set every single time, right? Typically, what would you want to do is you want to actually just move what changed, right, in your source system, right? So this is where Copy Job shines, right? Not only that Copy Job can support moving, full copy of the data, but it can also move data incrementally as well, right? When I say removing incrementally, typically when we talk about that is that there's two modes or two delivery styles style in copy job that will help you to do this, right? One is that you can actually move incremental copy with watermark. So if your source table or your source your table have an incremental column or watermark column, right? No matter if it's a timestamp or it's increasing number ID that you have, we will be able to copy your data based on what changed, based on your watermark column, and we'll be able to detect the new rows that you have that has changed, and we'll be able to copy it over, right? Some systems, right, for example, SQL Server or Oracle as well, right, we support native CDC as well. So what this does is that typically in CDC, they will have a separate way of actually logging the changes, right, and CopyJob would be able to listen to those changes, right, from the source, right, and copy just what changes into your destination. And what's good about that as well is that on your destination, we also support observe or merge as you see fit, right? No matter which style that you want to actually manage your destination, we will be able to support that. And of course, with CopyJob, as you've seen in an earlier demo, right, you can select how fast or what is the cadence that you want to run. So it actually matches with your production workload and how you want to actually move your data at what you need to do, no matter it's in real time, no sub-minute, or you're saying that you just want to run this once a day. You have the option to do this. And one thing that I really love about this is that when we talk about CopyJob, is that it's really talking about how reliable it is, right? Because the engine that run underneath the hood, it has been something that we have been perfectioning and working on. We have moved petabyte of data every single day, and that many of our customers really love on this one. So this is a built on the reliable platform that you can use, and many of our customers have been using this in their production as well, right? And of course, with CopyJob, right, not only that the way that we're reading from the source, right, as I mentioned, right, we also support CDC pattern, right, especially SCD type 2. This is something that we have enabled recently. So then customer, right, you can actually, as you're reading the change data from your source and you land it on your destination, right, we keep a full history so then you can know where the source is from, what timestamp it's actually landed on your destination. So then you can actually make sure that every single thing is that it will keep the full history. So then if you want to replay it back, right, if there's something happened that you need to replay back this data, right, from the destination, you can do so as well, right? Now, as I mentioned already on this one is that one more thing especially about a CopyJob, right, is that we will always making sure that everything is in sync, right? Whenever there's changes from your source, we will be able to bring it in and able to make sure that everything is keep up to date, right? As we're processing your change and copy your changes as well, right? On this one. Now, I keep coming back to this slide many times. Folks have seen my sessions before. Is because many of our customers really love CopyJob, right? They love CopyJob about its simplicity. They really love the fact that we support incremental copy, and then the matter of fact is that you don't need to manage a pipeline to do all these amazing capability that you need in production, right? And it's absolutely true, right? From the quote that you see on the screen here is that we really have done a lot of work behind the scene, both making sure that a CopyJob experience is simple, but also making sure that you have the options and all the capability that you need to do, that you need in order for you to move your data at the speed and at the cadence and at the method that you want. Now, one thing that for folks who are following CopyJob, right, you will also see that we're continuously bringing new capabilities to you all, so that we're making sure that it will continue making sure that CopyJob is a tool that you will use when you're in Fabric and you want to move data, again, from any source into Fabric OneLake or to any destination that you want. that you need, right? And then one of the very exciting features that we have released, it's really the audit column in CopyJob, right? What this does is that you can select the audit columns that you want to keep track of, and we're making sure that on your destination data, right, we have all the details that you need from when the rows were moved, like timestamp base, or the details on that one, and also where does the row come from, right? So then once that you need to audit your data about the full end-to-end and how the data it moved, it really enabled the insights that you needed to, and as you can see from the little snippet that you see on the bottom, you see that it keeps on everything, the whole lineage, and mostly the column that you really care about in order for you to audit your data movement needs, right? And this is something that you can already go to Fabric as of today, right? If you run your CopyJob, you will see the column, audit column supported as of today in Fabric as well. Now, another capability that we have also recently brought into public preview is really the workspace monitoring for CopyJob as well, right? Many customers has been telling me that the fact that, hey, CopyJob, as you know, they need more in order for them to monitor. Now, there might be some issues from the source, and there might be something that is happening in between where, oh, maybe their data is deviating from, what they expect, right, downstream, right? Anything that they need to monitor and being able to be alert on, we're very proud that we released this capability where we now support workspace monitoring for CopyJob in this case, right? And just like any of your other Fabric capability that you are maybe currently using, right? And some folks may be already using workspace monitoring for other workload that you have in Fabric, right? Right now, CopyJob, you can also do so as well. And then once that you turn on workspace monitoring, you can see all the details, all the events that you needed as well. And as I dabble on this a little bit more as well at the beginning, is that not only that you can see what's going on with CopyJob, but with workspace monitoring, you can also receive alerts, right? To saying, oh, okay, so something went wrong with CopyJob or any other of your workload, you will be able to notify very, very quickly. And this is also part of the piece where in CopyJob, we continue improving, and then we continue making sure that CopyJob matches and it will actually work well in your production workload as well. And of course, monitoring and being able to make sure that CopyJob and with any other Fabric workload works well in your production pipeline. And this is something that we're super excited to have released recently in public preview for you to use. And one lastly on this one is that with CopyJob now, as I mentioned, CopyJob moves petabyte of data every single day, but we're not satisfied with that, right? We continue to actually making sure that CopyJob will improve in performance, right? As you can see here, we recently released a feature where we enable automatic partitioning for you, right? Many customers have their data partitioned in different ways, right? From many huge tables, right? You can think about your SQL, your SAP have large tables, right? In CopyJob, we actually enable or automatic partitioning, so you don't have to worry about setting up partitioning and making sure that you select, oh, what is the best strategy for CopyJob to move your data at scale, right? With CopyJob, with this new feature that we have released, it will actually help you to be able to select the right partition and move at performance, right? So that it's amazing, and we've heard amazing feedback from our customer using this feature as well. And of course, one more thing that we want to make sure, and this is super on time for this session as well, is that we were able to double our speed of when we're moving our data from any sources that you have ran you right into a lakehouse table as well, using copy job, right? A lot of engineering effort happened in the background to make this happen and making sure that you have the best experience that you have when you're moving data at no matter it's full copy, incremental copy into Fabric in a lakehouse table. We're very proud to be able to increase the speed, increase the performance with copy job with this. Now, one thing that I have to mention, although yes, we want to, this session, we really want to focus on how you can actually transform your data, moving your data into Fabric, and also transform your data as well. But one thing to note is that copy job, right, is not only about copying data into Fabric as well. Copy job, it can actually be able to move it from data from any source to any target of your choice, right? With the same performance and low cost as well. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. And of course, everything that you do will have that simplistic user experience. And of course, we will also enable you to have full control as well. So let me show you a demo about what this means and what capability you can do with copy job.
Let's see how Data Factory empowers enterprise-grade orchestration and multi-cloud data distribution built on the richness of Fabric's connectivity platform. With Copy Job, you can move data at a petabyte scale using batch and incremental copy, including change data capture and watermark-based patterns. This keeps data fresh across clouds efficiently while reducing load on source systems. You can also connect securely to on-premises and cloud sources with network-compliant access to protected resources. Let me show you how Copy Job makes this possible. First, I'll use Copy Job to ingest raw files from AWS S3. I'll select S3 as my source and connect using an on-premises gateway, so even behind a firewall, secure access is seamless. With just a few clicks, Copy Job moves these files directly into OneLake as a one-time load. Notice how easy it is for Copy Job to move large volumes of data across clouds. Next, I'll use Copy Job again to bring in reference tables from Azure SQL Database into Fabric. Here, I'm authenticating with a service principal stored in Azure Key Vault, keeping credentials secure. Copy Job lets me configure table and column mapping, choose append to preserve existing data, and enable incremental copy so only changes are moved after the initial load. This is where Copy Job's flexible change tracking becomes important. Depending on the source and scenario, you can use change data capture or watermark-based incremental copy to keep data fresh efficiently without repeatedly moving the full dataset. Now, after completing my analysis in Fabric, I want to distribute results to my clients on another cloud. With Copy Job, I select my gold data from the lakehouse and choose Snowflake as the destination, connected privately through a VNet gateway. Copy Job automatically tracks inserts, updates, and deletes using change data feed, and replicates data to Snowflake on a configurable schedule. Now, I can make changes in the lakehouse, rerun Copy Job, and those updates sync seamlessly, boosting efficiency and reducing load on the source system. With Copy Job, you're never locked into a single cloud. Whether it's Azure, AWS, or Snowflake, you can move and distribute data at petabyte scale, powered by the richness of Fabric's connectivity platform. And with secure, network-compliant access, you can confidently connect to both on-premises and cloud sources, while keeping protected data secure.
Awesome. So with Copy Job, one thing that you also love to wrap up Copy Job on this, right? So one thing that I would love you to, as we talk about Copy Job in the last 20 minutes, right? One thing that we'd love for you to take away is these couple of points, right? One is that Copy Job, you're able to actually predict what the cost is with Copy Job, right? As just like any other Fabric workload, right? Copy Job have a capacity base, right? This is how Copy Job is built, right? And of course, one thing that actually Copy Job stands out is that it just basically is part of your Fabric CU as well, right? We do not charge you per row, right? That's one thing, right? And of course, all the connectivity that you've seen at the very beginning when I started the session, the amazing things that when you connect into SAP, you connect into Oracle, right? every single connector is included, right? You do not need to pay more in order for you to, let's say, connect to a specific source, right? And one big thing about that, for especially for folks that are here with everybody, is it's cost is number one thing on top of mind, is that you actually really decide on when you want to bring the data and how you want to bring the data. So as I mentioned before, no matter if you want to bring the data in every minute, or if you want to bring in data only at every single day, you have full control, and you control how whenever copy job is run, right? So you control the cost on this one, just based on your own needs. So we won't charge you a monthly fee for a copy job, and we won't charge you per row as well. So it's all part of the Fabric CU that you already pay, right? So that's one thing. Now, one more thing that I would love to share is that, and I would love to emphasize, is that copy job will continue just to grow, right? You just seen the the tip of the iceberg about some of the recent capability that we will ship, but we'll continue to expand on how we support SCDC, right? Especially the number of connectors that we have, and we'll continue to work on the pipeline so then we can continue to expand copy job without impacting the simplicity that you have seen so far. So we're really, really excited about copy job. Now, one thing that what I'll do is I'll hand it back to Abhishek, is that now once you have copied the data, right, which is amazing capability that you've seen, right, and you land your data in Fabric OneLake, right, the next thing, as Abhishek showed early on, is that how you would want to transform this data. And that's where I'll hand back to Abhishek to talk a little bit more about the amazing things that we have shipped with DBT jobs.
Let's switch screens. Thank you, Wilson. So thank you, Wilson, for taking us through copy job. And that's extremely important, because before an analytics engineer start to kind of write start to do analysis or start to write some SQL code, one thing you want is all the data to be captured in a single place. And in data engineering terms, we call that as raw zone or bronze layer in the Mendelian architecture, right? And that is what Wilson showed and demonstrated, how you can bring data from in different fashions, from different kinds of data sources, from different network environments using gateways. You can connect to a data source which is behind a firewall. You can connect to a data source which is on-premise hosted, which is hosted on IaaS, which is hosted on AWS, wherever it is. We can get all the data together in a common place, right? And this is one way of getting data, right? Copy job. There are multiple other ways, which we didn't talk about today, mirroring and so many different ways that we can get data into Fabric, into OneLake. And then starts the journey, once the data comes into the lakehouse, is how do I start curating this data, cleansing this data, preparing this data for my reporting layer, right? And so this is where we'll start. So we have finished, checked off those two boxes. We'll get to now the transform layer, and we'll use Lakehouse and Warehouse. And the tool that we will use in today's session is DBT. Again, you have multiple options for transformations. You have data flows Gen 2, you have notebooks, you have functions, UDFs, so many different tools. We will talk about a very particular tool in this case in today's session, is Data Build tool. And it's an amazing open source tool that you can use to transform data. And we have a native integration of that tool. We have a partnership with DBT Labs, which I'll talk about later as well. And so let's get into that, how you can clean, transform, and model your data so that you can start building reports out of it. So just to give a quick recap, and especially for folks who may not have used DBT or Data Build tool before, it's a transformation layer of the modern stack, and you will find it quite often being used in many organizations where you are trying to analyze data, including data engineering use cases. It includes analytical use cases as well. So whoever uses SQL can use dbt. It's based on SQL, slightly different. You have the SQL select statements that it uses. On the right hand side, you can see, you can config, you can materialize a table, or you can choose not to, and then you can start doing Ginger templating, which means you can start referring things, and this makes it very usable because now you can template it. You can use multiple functions across the different model definitions you have. You can parameterize things using Ginger template, which kind of gives you the cool capability of, we also call it as pro developer, where you have the full control over what tables to be passed, how to parameterize those, and how to keep your logic more generic so that you can reuse that logic across different transformations. You can do all of those with dbt. It gives you it builds you an automatic DAG, which is basically a dependency graph, so that it knows, hey, here are the staging models, here are the silver models, here are the gold models. This is the order that I need to process it, so that you don't end up, you don't have to take the burden of understanding which model should I run first. dbt will plan it for you, create a graph, and execute it for you. So it gives you a lot of benefits in that aspect, and it tries and make things more declarative. You are basically doing more declarative transformation rather than deciding, hey, how do I bring the data into staging, and what do I need to do, what cleansing do I need to do? And you can focus on the end data models that you want, define those models with select statements, and make it more declarative. And then comes the built-in testing. It has built-in tests that you can very easily configure, which makes it super interesting because people actually write additional testing code, and you can actually very easily mention, hey, I don't want I want null or referential integrity, or I don't want this column to be null, or I want this column to be unique, because the business data, and that this is an ID column and it should be unique. And if it's not, it's a duplication, it's incorrect data, and you need to flag that, and you need to correct that. And dbt gives you all those toolings so that you can call that out. And finally comes the docs and lineage, which is super interesting, because when you're writing complex transformations and especially collaborating with your team, the last thing you want is someone wrote the SQL code about 1,000 lines, just complex SQL code and joins and transformations, and that person went on a leave, and now someone else is doing the supportability, and so it can take a long time to understand what that code is and the dependency. So with all the dependency graphs that you see, and then the docs and the lineage, you can very easily understand even the column level lineage on where the data is coming from, where it changed, and correct that part. So these are great features which you already find in dbt core, and many customers who use dbt core, which is basically a command line CLI, and you can now operationalize those projects that you have written through dbt core in Microsoft Fabric, which means you don't have to run the CLI on your local infrastructure or your local environment. Typically, customers use VMs and their local machines. VMs probably when they're operationalizing it. Some customers use notebooks to kind of operationalize dbt orchestration or dbt compilation, build commands, all those experiences. Now you don't need to worry about those infrastructure that you are stitching up, because Microsoft Fabric takes care of that. It's native to Fabric. It's built-in orchestration in Fabric. It's built with activities inside pipelines as well, and I'll show you that example. And it gives you the enterprise security that you need. The OneLake security comes in pictures. It supports OAuth. Very soon we'll be supporting managed identities and service principals as well. Now, that's what it does. It makes you run your existing dbt projects with Fabric with just zero setup, fully managed, governed, and built through the same capacity that Wilson was showing you with copy job. So you don't have to worry about new capacity or subscriptions. With this, let's get started into a quick look into the dbt job.
Let's start in a Fabric workspace. I choose New dbt Job, I can start from samples or import an existing project. No local setup required. For this demo, I'll pick the Jaffa Shop Sample DBT project to keep things familiar. For the profile target, I'll select a profile and create a new warehouse to run against, then create a schema we'll use for the project. For the C data, by selecting the C data option, I can add static data files in my project as tables to my data warehouse, which provides staging data. This project imports in seconds, all inside Fabric. The seeding job starts and finishes within seconds. The sample ships with CSVs that land raw data into the warehouse schema. The seed just finished. And because we're in Fabric, identity and permissions flow through. Enter ID, workspace roles, and SQL level RLS, CLS, OLS policies are honored automatically when these tables are accessed elsewhere. Next, I'll keep the default DBT command on as run as build. That run models, tests, and snapshots in one go. Let's go ahead and run it. The run completes successfully. I'll go ahead and open the compiled SQL to verify what will be executed in the warehouse. Then I'll switch to lineage. Raw orders, payments, customers, that I see staging models, and then final customers and order models, all green. Now let's explore the data warehouse view to check both the seeded data and the generated models. This is the end-to-end DBT loop. We author, then run, then test, then document without leaving Fabric. It's the fastest path from SQL to trusted models. Because DBT is native, operationalization is in one click. I'll create schedule, say nightly and hourly catch-ups, and wire alerts to our team channel. From run history, you get logs, artifacts, and test outcomes. And in Fabric monitoring, DBT jobs sit alongside pipelines and warehouses, so ops has one place to watch everything.
Yes, and we shipped a lot more features since what you saw that demo. So it introduces you to DBT jobs, super simple. You can get started with it. You don't need any CLIs. You have native orchestration. All these are good, but we've been actively adding more and more capabilities into DBT job, and let's look into that as well, right? And what we've announced in the last month or so is a bunch of features, which is helping you get to the level of production. And I see a comment which is around excited for DBT job. We are excited too, and we are working very hard to get it to GA. And you will see that getting to GA in the next couple of months by September. And what we are doing on our side is we're just making sure we have all the features that makes DBT job reliable, for GA. And we are hitting that mark. And we are just kind of finishing through some of the UX work. But any of you who are interested, in getting a prod kind of support earlier, I'm more than happy to help. Get in touch with you, help answer any questions. So we'll follow up on the chat in case if you need any help in getting to prod before we announce GA. And now let's get into the DBT job. What's new and interesting features that we have built with CI/CD, GitHub support, and also the logging improvements that we have done for the scale of production. So let's go through that.
DBT jobs in Microsoft Fabric simplify operationalizing DBT at scale. Fabric provides a fully managed native way to run, schedule, monitor, and govern DBT projects. You can bring existing DBT projects directly from GitHub into Fabric with no code changes. Teams can reuse their existing repositories, stay aligned with CI/CD practices, and start running DBT jobs in Fabric in minutes instead of weeks. We now support public DBT packages, allowing teams to use well-known community packages like DBT Uid and Servants for generating surrogate keys, performing data quality checks, or reusing macros across hundreds of models, all with the familiar package definitions they already depend on. DBT job execution logs are now stored in OneLake, removing the previous 1 megabyte job output limitation. This makes DBT jobs far more reliable and scalable, especially for large projects, while enabling full fidelity troubleshooting, auditing, and long-term observability using Fabric native analytics. DBT jobs are now a first-class activity in Fabric pipelines. This enables rich orchestration where ingestion, transformation, and downstream analytics all run in a single pipeline. You can parameterize DBT job properties directly from the pipeline, making it easy to build metadata-driven dynamic data workflows. Everything you can do in the UI, triggering runs, monitoring execution, and managing jobs, is also available through REST APIs. Together, these enhancements make DBT jobs in Microsoft Fabric easy to onboard, powerful to operate, and ready for production scale analytics, from Git and public packages to enterprise logging, orchestration, and automation.
And that's not just it. So now let's tie it back to what we've been talking in this webinar, which is once we landed the data, once the data is there in Lakehouse, and now, this particular slide assumes that you're using silver and gold as a warehouse, but you're not restricted to that. So based on customer needs, customers can choose to have it on Lakehouse, or they can choose it to have all the 3 layers in the warehouse. And DBT has both adapters, right? With which we'll talk about, another example of how we can use the copy job with CDC so that we can extract the changes, then run the DBT job, and we can run DBT job with selectors. Selectors are concept within, or tags, are concept within DBT, where you can say, I want to run specific models only, right? And you can actually choose and match based on the incremental data that is coming through, because pipeline supports parameterization. You can parameterize the tags, you can parameterize the models that you want to run. And of course, DBT has the quality gate where you can fail if the quality is not met for that processing that you're doing. And you can then refresh your semantic models. So you never refresh your reports or semantic model unless you are qualifying the data is of high or supreme quality, right? And you can set up those quality gates with DBT. So let's quickly jump into that demo. And I will quickly show you DBT job. Pretty simple DBT job. What it does is it has gold and silver models. This is how we describe the models, and it deals with customers, orders, and products table, and it's doing basic cleansing in SQL. And you would expect what it's doing is it's just making sure it's trimming in the country. If there's any spaces, it's kind of removing them. And you can do these cases, and you can cleanse the data, prepare it, make sure your customer table meets the norm, because the data has been entered by multiple people through different sources, so it can look different. So this is where you start preparing your data, making it cleaned, but you're not joining it yet, right? And so this is your silver tables. And what this will do is you can choose to materialize it. In this case, it's materialized as table, not as a view. And there's interesting thing, which is tags. So it's being tagged as silver, right? And similarly, the gold folders are tagged as gold. And we'll see how this is being used actually in the pipeline now, right? So you have gold models defined. Gold models basically are doing the joins that you can see here. It's all using refs to the models. So very easy to kind of change, update your whole project. You have a README file, you have the configurations defined in YAML file, and you can actually see all the different products and customers' name you have. Now let's jump into the pipeline on how I would connect this data with the actual data which is coming from my copy job. So I will jump into my pipeline, the Java Medallion pipeline. And you can see we are getting the data from copy orders, products, and customers. And of course, we can use a single copy job. This is just for demonstration that we are bringing 3 different copy jobs from different sources. But if it's the same source, you can combine it all within the same copy job. And each of these copy jobs, once it extracts the data, it is pulling the data, and bringing that into a lakehouse, and we can open each one of them and validate it, what it does, and it will have a source and a destination mapping into it. And you can see it's bringing the data into the lakehouse, and from there, we'll get back to the pipeline, and now you see 2 DBT jobs, and the benefit of having multiple DBT activities, this is an activity inside the pipeline, both of them are calling the same DBT job. And the benefit is now you can see an advanced setting, because I want to set gates per layers, right? Not just for the goal, but I want to do this processing at different times, or I want to do processing with selective models at time. And this is how you can do that. So we support all the DBT command lines that you could expect DBT supports, DBT CLI supports, and you can do selectors. You can do a selector of based on a tag. In this case, I showed you we actually define silver and gold as tags for those models which are doing gold transforms and silver transforms. And this makes sure that when you run it, it only runs those specific silver models and it materializes those. And the gold one does the same thing for the gold. You can do excludes as well. You can do full refresh, fail fast. All those commands are available for you. And the best part is these are all parameterizable. So you can add dynamic content as if you are building a pipeline, if you're a pro pipeline user, you know how to parameterize things, how to do a lookup and feed in these values dynamically. You can do all of those with the DBT job, with the activity that we have inside the pipeline. And of course, it'll run, it'll succeed, and it'll give you, output of those, and it is all available through this URL. So it's very easy to get into that and quickly monitor your executed DBT jobs and see the status. If you need the logs, your logs are available too. So this is how you kind of join the dots between the DBT job, the copy that you're doing, and you can validate the lineage view of the models that was created and processed and so on. So you can see the green checks, which means these were the silver ones that we ran in case of the with the silver tag, but these are not executed, right? Which are the downstream dependencies. So you can very easily find from the lineage graph as well. So this is where we are making things much more simpler. If you're running DBT, everything is all integrated inside Fabric. With this, I would also like to quickly jump back into our slides before we just have 8 more minutes. We want to talk about what's in the future, right? We certainly want to get to GA this DBT job, but I can assure you that we are GA ready in terms of the quality. More than happy to connect offline with any of you to work in terms of getting you to GA with DBT job. But more importantly, we have a partnership which we announced last year with DBT Labs in terms of bringing Fusion as a native engine in Microsoft Fabric. And we are working on that, and private preview is staged for August. By the time we GA, this will already be in preview. The Fusion runtime, the core runtime version 1 is already available, and that will be GA'd by September. Now, this is basically the set of things that you see, which is available now. The DBT core, we were version 1.9, which we are bumping it to version 1.11 very, very soon, within a month's time. So both coming soon, and on the horizon that you see are things which are coming up in the next 1 to 2 months. So a lot of features coming in that includes things like workspace identity, SPN, the Lakehouse adapter that's kind of rolling out as we speak. So now you can, while you can read from Lakehouse today using the SQL Analytics endpoint, now you'll be able to write as well, the transforms and materialize views on the Lakehouse with the Lakehouse adapter. DBT Fusion support is coming soon. The runtime will be bumped to 1.11, and then we will support DBT Fusion preview runtime as well. Support for Azure DevOps repos. By the way, we support GitHub and DevOps if you're using the Workspace Git. We support both of them, because Workspace Git is a Fabric feature. This specific Azure DevOps repos is basically saying if you have existing GitHub code sitting directly in your Azure DevOps repo, and that's not part of your Workspace repo, then you can just bring it as a source of truth, which means we will not store the data on our side. We will reference the data from your DevOps. So otherwise, all the data, that the code that you have, we actually store it in our Workspace Git and in OneLake. Which we won't do in case if you use the Azure DevOps repos. And this is very, very useful if you have thousands of projects sitting in existing repos and you don't want to do a migration of those, right? So you will just want to connect an existing repo just for the DBT job, but not for the workspace. And that's what this stands for. And we continue to add the adapter coverage, like more and more adapters. We are listening to you, so please keep giving us feedback on what are the missing adapters that you would want to see. Adapters basically are support for warehouses or lake houses that you would want to support on. For example, we already support Snowflake, so you can actually execute DBT jobs on Snowflake. Create staging models or silver or gold models, and if you want to do mirroring of those into Fabric and then start using them in reports in Fabric, you can do all of those things today. By the way, because we have the Snowflake adapter, SQL adapter, PostgreSQL adapter. You can connect to Azure Horizon DB as well using the PostgreSQL adapter, right? So I'm just giving you, we have a lot of things today. If there's something missing that you would want, we would be more than happy to hear that feedback and help you get those. The last slide, or the second last slide that I have around, is showing the value. We saw the value, the immense value that DBT job brings in, but just to quantify that, right? How cost efficient it is. Right? Here's a use case. I have 50 models, which I'm running every hour, right? I'm refreshing these models every hour, which is taking 5 minutes of, that's based on telemetry. I calculated an average time for a run of a DBT job, 5 minutes per run, 30 days a month, which is 720 runs, 60 execution hours, and guess the price that you pay, right? And of course, price is dependent on a lot of different factors. So let's not get into that. But more importantly, the CU hours that you're built for is just about 120 CU hours for running 60 hours of DBT job. Refreshing 50 into 720 models is about 35,000 models or so, and the CURs that you're built for is about 120 CU is about on an average $20 a month, right? If you have a VM running on Azure, you'll be paying $200 a month for running DBT on that. So it's very cost effective. It gives you all the enterprise readiness and the features and the capabilities that you need. We are more than willing to hear anything that is missing so that we can add on to it, so that it can add make your whole data integration process and transformation process more secure and more enterprise ready. Now, this is what we talked about, just recapping things, how things are easier with Fabric with single capacity and, DBT job, copy job, all the pipelines, orchestration, the governance, the lineage that you saw, bills, everything as a single package, versus using n different tools, even for doing cross-cloud, because Microsoft Fabric is truly cross-cloud. There are different ways how you can connect to Databricks, connect to Snowflake, and yet make things feel very, very native, right? And that's the beauty of Microsoft Fabric. And so with that, that's the content that we have for today, and we'll look for questions. If you have any questions, feel free to put the questions on the chat. Wilson and me will be here for the next couple of minutes answering your questions. And that's all the content that we had. Thank you, everyone. Great. Thanks a lot, everyone. Hope to see you folks again in our future webinars as well. So, keep in touch and keep following Microsoft Reactor for more webinars. And thanks a lot for being a great audience for the session. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
This session is part of a series. We're always looking to improve our sessions and your experience. If you have any feedback for us, we would love to hear what you have to say. You can find that link on the screen or in the chat. And we'll see you at the next one.